Hi, I'm Phil, and today we're going to have a look how you prepare your PC and your M5StickC so that they're connected and you can use the programs from M5Stack. Okay, so I'm now sharing the PowerPoint screen, and we'll just move on to the first slide. So the first thing you need to do is find out what version of Windows do you have. So I've got a Dell laptop, and to find out what version of Windows I have, I go down to the Windows icon on the bottom left corner, click that with the right mouse button, and look for System. Use the left mouse button and open that up and have a look at the report that you get back. So this is telling me my laptop computer is a Dell XPS 13 and it has a system type. It's 64-bit operating system and a 64-bit processor. So that's good news for me. It means that all the programs from M5Stack will work on my computer. And I can use both communication modes, mode 1 to the cloud, and I can use mode 2 USB. So that's good. What about this computer? This is a computer I've had for about 5 years. Still runs Windows, and it's a computer from Intel. It's called the Intel Stick computer. So if I do a report on that, it tells me that at this time I've got a 32-bit operating system with a 64-bit processor. The trouble is with this is that I can't use some of the programs from M5Stack. I can't use the desktop version of UIFlow, and I can't use the M5Burner. But it's still possible to do the majority of your work on this computer, and I'll have a look at that later. Okay, so if you've got a 64-bit version of Windows, go to the M5Stack website, and from the top menu of software, select Downloads. So I want you to download the first 3 programs: UIFlow Desktop IDE, M5Burner, and the USB driver, which is called CP2104 driver. Now, once you've downloaded those, they'll go into your Chrome download folder. So transfer them to a new folder that you've called M5Stack under My Documents or Documents on your Windows PC computer. So the order of installation, there can be a couple of alternatives. The easiest one, to minimize the amount of work you have to do, is to go to install the UIFlow Desktop IDE first, and from there you can install the USB driver. And after that, you go to the M5Burner and get that working. And the reason is that you need the M5Burner to download the UIFlow firmware into your M5StickC. It's also possible to install the USB driver first, then the UIFlow desktop and the M5Burner. Remember that you need to have the USB driver installed on your computer. That's a critical step. And you need to have the M5Burner working to download the firmware into your M5StickC. So if you follow this procedure, number 1, after unplugging After unzipping the UIFlow Desktop IDE folder, open it and run the UIFlow Desktop IDE. Should look something like this on the first screen you get. Just press OK. And at this stage, no comms port has been allocated because the driver hasn't been installed yet. So click on Driver Installation, which is on the top left-hand corner of your program. And you're going to install the USB driver. So when you see this window, just press yes or click yes with your mouse button. Follow through on the installation so that you complete that installation. And now check that the USB driver has actually been correctly installed. So from the Windows icon, select Device Manager, and under Device Manager, have a look at ports, communications, and LPT as printers. And under there, you can see that my Windows computer has allocated COMS4 to my USB serial port for the M5StickC. Now I can use UIFlow and M5Burner with COMS4 to communicate between the Windows PC and my M5StickC. So what to do next? Well, we're going to get the M5Burner program working so that we can download the firmware into our M5StickC. So this is the arrangement. On the left, we've got the communications from the internet, and on the right, we've got the link between the Windows PC and the M5StickC. And with the M5Burner, we're actually going to use both forms of communications, that is USB communications, and we're going to download the firmware from the internet into a Windows PC, and a Windows PC is then going to transfer that via USB into the M5StickC. So when you run the M5Burner program, it will find that COMS4 has been allocated to the M5StickC. And on this window, go down to StickC. And on StickC, you'll get all the possible firmware programs that are available for the M5StickC computer. So the one we want to select is UIFlow StickC. And it'll look something like that. So to download, what we do is just simply click on download. And once we've downloaded the firmware into our Windows PC, we get a choice of removing it, having a look at the configuration, or burn. Select burn, and after it's completed burn, this will take about a minute or two, you'll get a window like this on your M5StickC. Might not look exactly like that, and the various windows and modes are selected by button B on your M5StickC. So verify that you've got something like this on your M5StickC. So now that you've got the firmware in your M5StickC, there are a couple of operations that you should be familiar with. First one is that you can power off by pressing the button, which is on the bottom left here. Sometimes, depending on the orientation, it might be on the top, but in this orientation, the power and reset button is on the bottom left. Press that for 6 seconds and it's power off. Press it for 3 seconds and it's power on. So we'll now go to the next step, and the important button here is on the top right, and that's button B. So if you press that once, you'll go into cloud mode. If you press it twice quickly, you'll go into USB mode, or if you keep on pressing it, you'll go into 2 other possible modes. So if everything's successful, you'll get the picture which is shown on the right, and what's important there is that you keep a track of your API key when you're in cloud mode. So in cloud mode, you can communicate with the internet via your Windows and your Wi-Fi system, and that's mode 1. So mode 2, and that's the mode that we'll use in this course from now on, you'll get into mode 2 from your M5StickC with the correct firmware, and that's the UIFlow firmware. So if you press button B twice, you'll get a picture as shown on the right, and that will have a USB icon on it. Now this program will not work with a Windows 32-bit version. So for mode 2 USB, any program that you get from the cloud comes from your Windows via USB into the M5StickC. Now, it may be possible that you've pressed button B too many times and you could get a picture like that. So just keep on pressing it again, or you might have to go back to reset, quickly press button B and try to get into the USB mode. And the final one, or the final mode, is your own program that you download into the M5StickC. Okay, so if you've got a 64-bit Windows version, that's all you should have to do. But if you've got a 32-bit version of Windows, then you only need to download the USB driver. So as before, transfer that to your Documents M5 stack folder, unzip it, and this time we're going to run an X68 version, which will also run on the X32-bit version of Windows, and proceed with the installation of the USB driver. Now, the only problem is that Windows, on a Windows 32, it will only work with the UI online version. And so you'll need to get your API key going, and you're going to use Wi-Fi and the cloud connection. But there is still one problem, and that is the M5Burner will not work on Windows 32. So the alternative is to go to a Windows 64, and you only have to do this once. You just have to download the M5StickC UIFlow firmware. And once you've done that and you've paired with your own home PC again, you can then continue with development and coding and downloading onto your M5StickC, even though you have only a 32-bit Windows computer. Okay, so that's all for the time being, and we'll stop the presentation.